Hey everybody, thanks for being here. We're going to be talking about, we finally have the elements of an Ethereum identity stack. I am brantly.eth. This is my on-chain profile. I'm building Ethereum Follow Protocol and Ethereum Identity Kit, which I'll be talking about a little bit today. Also, I've been very involved in ENS for many years. I'm the former core team lead. I'm on the Security Council. I'm a DAO delegate. I'm the creator of Signed with Ethereum. So this is stuff I've been thinking about a long time. So I want to go back to the very beginning of kind of where digital identity came from. And it actually goes back to the 1970s. So public key cryptography was invented, or some might say discovered, in the 1970s. And it actually was invented by two different groups of people independently, some people secretly in the US government, some people in academia at MIT. And you have to understand this, this is one of the most important inventions or discoveries, in my opinion, of like the 20th century. I mean, certainly in computer science. Extremely powerful. Okay, so prior to this, if you wanted to encrypt a message and send it to the other person, right, you encrypt it with a private key, you had to send that person the private key so they could decrypt it. That was the only way for thousands of years, for all of human history, up until the 1970s, where we figured out a way that you could encrypt something with a private key using that person's public key, and then they were able to decrypt it with their private key, and you didn't have to share any private information. Extremely powerful. This was so powerful that the US government said this is like classified as like a defense weapon, and it's illegal to share with people outside of the United States. And the US government was not wrong in determining that this was extremely powerful. But this sort of shut down its use in technology, though, for a few decades, until the 1990s. This guy named Phil Zimmermann. Who here has heard of Phil Zimmermann? Okay, great. He's a hero. We would not be here without Phil Zimmermann. So thank you, Phil Zimmermann. So Phil Zimmermann, yes, he created this thing called PGP, Pre-Good Privacy, an implementation of public key cryptography that was public, and he fought the U.S. government to make this legal so we could use it for, general tech, and he won in the 90s. So, by the way, most of the internet protocols were invented in like the 70s and 80s, even though they became open to the public in the 90s. None of them had public key cryptography built into them because it was illegal to do so. So since the 1990s, people have been attempting to put it back in, but it's kind of tricky to do because it wasn't built into it. In the 90s, there was a group called the Cypherpunks, and they realized that public key cryptography, among many things, could be used as the root of a digital identity, and they promoted PGP, and they had like the MIT PGP key store and all these things like this, and they really pushed it, but they just never really got that much adoption. How many people here have ever used PGP? How many people have stored it like on the MIT key store? Okay, so no one's gonna be able to find it. Anyway, how often, who's used PGP this week? Okay, wow, amazing, okay. It never really got huge amounts of adoption. Okay, until 2008, Bitcoin is created and it uses public key cryptography not to like encrypt like hidden information, but as like your wallet. And of course, Ethereum did the same thing in 2015. All blockchains do this. Okay, this is why this is so important. Crypto has accomplished with economic incentives what cypherpunks couldn't with appeals to privacy and freedom, and namely this: the widespread adoption of private keys and the flourishing of a private key management industry, which is what we call wallets. Okay, really, guys, amazing. Prior to crypto, public private key management software wasn't very good. And there wasn't any economic incentive to make it or to use it or anything like this. And although I believe in privacy and freedom, it doesn't motivate most people. Many people in this room have experienced that, but money does. And if you can make money, potentially make money by having a private key, then a lot of people get private keys. This is really important because once you have a private key for crypto, you can use it for all sorts of other things, all these other things that cypherpunks wanted people to use it for. Okay, another key thing in the history here, 2011, Namecoin was the first serious altcoin. And the key insight there was that you could use blockchains for things other than money. And in this case, internet names. So for those of you who are into ENS, the very first non-monetary use of blockchains was naming. It's interesting, it goes back a while here. but it didn't really get adoption. It was a good try. Then in 2014, in the Ethereum white paper, Vitalk listed 5 areas that Ethereum could be used for, and one of them was identity. And he mentions Namecoin as an attempt at internet naming with blockchains, and he says maybe we could try this again with Ethereum. When Ethereum launched, right away, inspired in part by his white paper, there were many attempts at Ethereum-based identity. And they pretty much all failed, and you haven't heard of them because they failed. They were good tries. And I think the mistake that many of them were making is that they thought of identity or social as a single app. I think the problem with this is that identity is not a single hard problem. It's like 20 hard problems. So you might solve a few of them, but you're unlikely to solve all of them. You'll probably have to cut corners if you try. Here's a key thing. Building things in a decentralized way is way harder than building things in a centralized Web 2 way. This is a big mistake that many developers make. They're used to building like iPhone apps or websites and things like this, and they said, hey, let me try to make a Web 3 app. It's going to be the same thing. It's not. It's way harder to do. And in my experience, I think there are many Web 3 devs who wish they were building Web 2. Because they're like, why can't I just centralize everything and it just works? Like, and they say, users don't care about decentralization. Okay, great. We have an entire part of the tech industry where that doesn't matter. It's called Web 2. You can go do it over there. That's great. I'm not anti-Web 2. But over in Web 3, we do care about decentralization. So then we had the Ethereum name service, and it launched in 2017. It originally was created for decentralized websites. And as a result, it was modeled after DNS. You have like DNS, and you had ENS, right? And then early on also, they said, hey, we could also use this for to name Ethereum addresses for crypto payments, but it was not thought of as an identity primitive at all. Those words were never said for years. It was used for these other things. However, then in 2021, 4 years after launch, I realized that ENS was actually your crypto username and profile. People were already using it as like their crypto username and profile. We just hadn't crystallized that in our mind as like what we were really doing. And really what I realized was that the username is the meta use case for all these things, right? So it's like, you want to send me money, you send it to me. You want to find out more information about me, you go to my page, you go to my name on the internet. All these things ultimately are sub-use use cases of the bigger use case, which is that it's a username for me. So then also in 2021, I realized what I said before, that with crypto wallets, we'd given everybody a private key, and there's all these other things we could use that for, and including for authentication. So people were already using crypto wallets, mostly Ethereum wallets for authentication, but everybody was making their own message and spinning up their own message to sign. It wasn't very secure. It wasn't standardized. And so we standardized it with EIP 4361. So if you have a crypto app and you need people to sign in, now this is not just connecting your wallet. Connecting your wallet doesn't require any authentication, but if the user has to access private information like on your server, they have to like sign into your servers. You should use the Sign with Ethereum standard. Why? Number one, we've thought of everything and it's secure, and if you're rolling your own message, it's probably not secure. Don't do it. Okay, friends, don't let friends roll their own message. Number two, it has support in wallets. So, for example, in MetaMask, if you ask a user to just sign a random message, it just says, do you want to sign this message? If it's a sign with Ethereum formatted message, it recognizes it as that and says a sign-in request. And so that helps the user know, I'm not just signing a random message and I think it's signing me in, or is it doing something else? They know it's doing authentication. Because should users be asked on a regular basis to sign random messages? No, they should not. So don't do that. Use Sign with Ethereum. So around this time, this sort of crystallized in my mind that Ethereum identity, right, is not a single app. Instead, it is the sum of the information relationships held in various decentralized protocols and open standards, which I call the Ethereum identity stack. What this means is that the identity stack itself can be decentralized rather than vertically integrated, and I think this is a good thing. So I think the path is that we unbundle the elements of identity to their smallest viable parts and have separate teams solve them individually with decentralized protocols and open standards. The key thing here is that as a result of that, each part can stand or fall on its own merits rather than being an all or nothing proposition. So for example, if you don't like ENS, you can launch an ENS competitor, but you don't have to at the same time launch a Sign with Ethereum competitor or vice versa. And so actually I think it makes the identity stack much more robust and much more open for improvement and competition on its individual parts. As a result of this, that has led me to create Ethereum Follow Protocol. So I was first talking about this in 2021. I tweeted a write-up in 2023. We launched finally in September 2024. So funny thing about that, during that year, I had a small team. We were trying to build this and get this out. And my wife was expecting our 8th child. And I told the team, I said, hey, we need to launch before my wife has this baby. And we did just barely. We launched at the end of September, and we had our child in early October. EFP, it is an on-chain social graph protocol for Ethereum accounts. Notice there, so it's on-chain, it's fully on-chain. There's not any of this off-chain like bullshit, okay? It's a social graph. So what it means is that you can, Ethereum accounts can follow other Ethereum accounts, they can follow you. You have this kind of web of relations, and it's for Ethereum accounts. So you don't have to have an EFP account, you just use your Ethereum account. This also means that even if you've never used EFP, I can still follow you if you have an Ethereum account. It's designed, of course, to complement ENS and Sign with Ethereum, and it's been funded mostly by the ENS DAO because it's a complementary protocol. Some information about it. So we have 58 integrations so far. We've been growing that a lot. We're in things like Superfluid, Snapshot, the POAP app, Yodel, many others. Yep, Yodel is great. We have about 27,000 unique users. It's growing all the time. About 17,000 on-chain actions. It's like follow, unfollow, tag, untag. We let people tag people as well. And here are just some examples of how to use it. So, you have someone's ENS profile. All this information except what's in the red box is from this person's ENS profile. You have their avatar. The background is their header image. They have like a bio. They have their socials. They have their name, all these things. Okay, so what EFP does is it adds on all this other information. So it shows my relationship to them. So it says following. If I was not following them, that would just be a normal follow button. It shows how many people they are following, how many followers they have. That gives me context. And this is really important on the right. It shows people who I follow who also follow them. This is one of the most important use cases for this because maybe I don't know them, but if people I trust say they know them, then it's like they're in my circle of trust, right? So it's this old school concept of web of trust. And this is, I think, actually one of the most valuable use cases for EFP and why it can be put in all crypto apps. It can be in wallets, it can be in DeFi, all these things, because if I'm interacting with any address or sending crypto to any address, I want to know, is this really who I intend to be sending this to? And if I have no connection to them on EFP, that's, kind of like a warning of like, are you really sure? Whereas if I already follow them, it's like, oh yeah, no, that is my friend. Or maybe they're a friend of a friend. Okay, this is probably the right person. That's very, very valuable. Here's another example, Superfluid, which is a great crypto streaming app. And when you're sending crypto to somebody, when you start to type in, they grab the people you follow on EFP and they start to do auto-complete with the people you follow. So it's like your address book that's cross app saved on chain. Very, very valuable. Here's another example. Of course, if you have a social graph, you can have an activity feed. Here's an activity feed that we made, partnered with Interface, which is a great app as well. Also, just so everybody here knows, if you integrate EFP into your app, you can get this shiny POAP integration, first 100. If you're one of the first 100, like I said, we're at 58. We're going fast, so these will run out soon. But if you're in the first 100, you can get one of those if you let us know. So are there other elements of the Ethereum identity stack? Yes, absolutely. And of course, there's degrees here. So like Ethereum attestation service, you can attest to anything. Very, very valuable. XMTP, it's gotten a lot of adoption. There's a new thing called Ethereum Comment Protocol and many others. I'm not trying to do an exhaustive list here. So you might say, okay, I want to integrate the Ethereum identity stack, but there's all these different parts. Well, we've created a component library that puts it all together. So Ethereum Identity Kit, ethidentitykit.com. It's a component library and API that makes it super easy to integrate the Ethereum identity stack into your crypto app. So for example, you're like, you want a profile, you don't have to design it. We've already designed it. Here's like a profile card you can use, a follow button you can drop into your app. We have a public API where you can get all this identity information. You just grab it from our API. Of course, all of this is on chain if you want to, but if it's easier, you can grab it from our API. We have a sign with Ethereum button that's well designed. We also have LLM context files. So everybody here's programming with LLMs. They don't always have the right context for these niche things. You can download our llms.txt files, plug it in, it'll have all the information it needs. Here are some links. And yeah, does anybody have any questions? We have a few minutes for questions. Yes. What's next? Here's somebody's working on putting credentials on chain, connecting it to their ENS profile as a central place. I think that'd be really useful. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So a nice thing about this being entirely on chain is that not only can humans have it, but machines can have these things as well. So absolutely, and that includes AI agents. I expect that AI agents will have ENS usernames, profiles. They'll have, they can follow each other on EFP. That you can follow them. Absolutely, all these things are open to machines as well.
Yeah, the first part of the question was front. It was essentially about the AI agents also owning the identity. The second one is about proof of humanity. Are there any plans to integrate it?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'm not the gatekeeper of what is exactly the Ethereum identity stack. These are my opinions about it. There are many proof of humanity projects out there, and those absolutely are a part of this as well. In Ethereum Identity Kit specifically, we just haven't done that yet, but definitely could be something in the future. I mean, proof of humanity is a tricky thing because anything you do ultimately probably can be gamed in some way or has some sort of results you don't like. I tend to think of proof of humanity as more of a probabilistic thing or like a web of trust thing. So actually, I think EFP is actually a good proof of humanity because if somebody who I trust follows another person on chain, then that person's probably a real person. And as you go further and further away from other people, degrees of separation, it gets less and less likely. So I actually think that the old cypherpunk web of trust idea is, I think that's actually the most workable, but there's experimentation all the time. Yeah, right here. Is that Dayan? Yeah. Yeah.
For my AI agents to be able to follow anyone if it desire.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's funny you say that. We're actually working on it like right now, an MCP server for all these things. Yep. And I mean, look, AI is the future. Everybody here knows that. It's massively sped up our development process, and we want to make it even easier. So absolutely.
Cool. I look forward for it.
Any other questions? Okay, well, we will be here to discuss afterwards. If anybody else has any other questions, thank you very much.